This is a Gen Z Future Fortunes podcast, hosted by Jordan Johnson. This podcast will help you in the following areas: money management skills, teaching you to control your debt, building wealth building strategies, entrepreneurship, and most importantly, to show you how you can do this yourself. So tune in and turn up.
Today, we only been speaking probably for like 20 minutes. I just met him maybe like 30 minutes ago, but I'm gonna let him introduce himself, tell the viewers a little about himself, and then we're gonna get right into the conversation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jordan, for having me. My name is Ethan Holmes. I'm 28 years old, from Shaker Heights, Ohio, live in Cleveland Heights, and I'm the founder and CEO of Holmes Mouthwatering Applesauce. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. We are a manufacturer of all natural applesauce products made right here in Cleveland, Ohio.
That's amazing, man. So obviously, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the question. What made you get started at making applesauce? Like, what was your whole thought process as far as this business idea? Because this is a pretty unorthodox business idea. When you think of most entrepreneurs, you're not thinking of them making an applesauce brand or even their own food brand in general. It's usually like clothes or something like that, commodities, or things that people don't really need.
And for me, I think, like many people, it started with shoveling snow, raking leaves, so the traditional things, even some t-shirt, and then I call that my first failure, where I saw, okay, I'm not making a lot of money, it's saturated, there's a lot of people doing this already. And then I decided maybe I'll do a chocolate bar. And I remember I called it Nom Nom bars, like Cookie Monster, Nom Nom Nom. And I made like packaging on, graphic art, graphic design website. Came to school, tried to sell it, and I realized nobody wanted to buy it. They're like, I'm not giving you my last dollar. This was high school. So I decided, why not pivot and do something different? I saw a jar of Mott's applesauce in my parents' fridge, and that told me, hey, applesauce is everywhere. People eat it everywhere. Why not take this product and do something different? But I didn't even know how to make applesauce. So that was why I went to my grandfather. He lived with us, he was retired, and I said, hey, Grandpa, can you show me how to make this? And that's how the whole dream came to be. And I said, wow, this is pretty good. Let me make my own. Let me try my own flavors, and, it never stopped.
So it sounds like you tend to look for ways to stray from the pack, if you see what I'm saying. Like, just based on what you're explaining now, you were talking about how you were trying to find ways to be an entrepreneur, but get into the avenues that aren't so oversaturated.
Exactly.
So I like that already. I definitely pride myself on being different from the rest. Right. Obviously, everybody's going to have things that we have in common. Everybody does similar things, but to be your own person, to be as unique as possible, that's a great thing.
Exactly.
Let me see. How do I want to say this? I heard a quote recently. It said, it's like a puzzle. You can't really fit in. How do I want to put it? Forgive me, y'all. I'm messing up a little bit, but we're not perfect. Good. But we still gonna have a great conversation. But basically, where I'm going with that is, I heard something. It's kind of like an analogy as far as like a puzzle piece. Mm-hmm. The only way that you can fit in is by being different. Like, if you think about a puzzle. Mm-hmm. Every piece is different. Every single piece is different. No two pieces look the same, but that's the only way that a puzzle is able to come together as a complete picture and actually show you an image. If you have every puzzle piece is the same shape, cut out the same way with the same image, you're not going to get nothing. It's just going to be a bunch of identical pieces, and it's not going to be able to complete a whole puzzle. It's not going to be cohesive.
100% agree, and that's what's carried me the whole way. I think it was 2016, we did a competition with an organization called COSE, and that's COSE, Council of Smaller Enterprises here in Cleveland, and it was for $20,000. And I applied. I didn't think I would make it to the top 10. We made it to the top 10. Then it was the top 5, and it was myself, a company that made technology. They had raised $2.5 million plus, a very popular restaurant chef, an applesauce company and some other like big retailer, and we won. We won the 20,000. It wasn't because we had the most sales. We only had made $50,000 of that. It was because this guy's making applesauce. He's doing something different, and people are accepting it. And so I was only like maybe 23 at that time, and I was like, wow, I just won the world. I beat all these companies that are way more established than me, and that showed me I had something. So you don't always have to have what everybody else has or the financial gain. You just got to have something that's unique. You know what I mean?
Make sure if you listening or watching this, make sure you definitely take heed to that. I feel like we live in a generation where a lot of people, they try really hard to emulate this stuff that they see on social media or celebrities in general, or just things that they see. They don't really think too much about what strengths do I have that allow me to have an upper hand in the world? What unique things or unique abilities do I have to offer to the world? People don't think about those. They don't think about honing those skills.
And if I can add to that, you don't have to create a flying car. You know what I mean? You can start with
reinvent the wheel.
Exactly. Start with something simple and just do something different. And the fact is, applesauce is not my favorite food. I have no problem telling the world that. I didn't grow up eating it every day. I just said, hey, I'm gonna do something different. Everybody's like, does your family own an orchard? Probably been in an orchard twice. My family and I. So if that. So you know what I mean? It's just different. You feel me? So
I like it. You saw an opportunity and you capitalized on it. That's what life is about, man.
Appreciate it, bro.
But most definitely. But I don't want to get too far ahead. I really want to kind of slow walk this just to get a feel for your thought process or your mindset. So it seems like, based on the few minutes that we've been talking, you're very, I'm gonna say, well-spoken, educated. You seem very ambitious. And you said you're only 28, right?
28, yeah.
28. So obviously, you're thinking about a lot of crazy things. And when I say crazy, I don't mean like ridiculous in the sense like it's weird, but I'm saying like life-changing, like things that out of the ordinary, if that makes sense. You're thinking about a lot of things like this at such a young age. Can you just speak on what kind of, I guess, like your background, your upbringing, what caused you to be this way, what makes you so ambitious, what allows you to spot opportunities like, hey, I'm gonna make my own applesauce brand and really run with that. Like, what are the types of things that you experienced in your childhood and growing up that contributed to where you are today?
Well, just like, when I spoke at you, I see a lot of the qualities I had in you, and so I'm not any different than any other, young black male. I think that I just said, hey, I want to stick with this. Again, I made money through shoveling snow, raking leaves, and I'm the type of guy that if I saw something, I just did it. I didn't need, a bunch of friends, so I kind of moved at my own pace, and I like projects. My best friend was a rapper. I was his manager. I learned more about business through that than through applesauce initially. And so just working with him, doing Beachland Ballroom, Grog Shop, all those stages, and just hustling, I think that's what it laid that foundation, you know what I mean? And then I believe closed mouths don't get fed.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of been my upbringing, is that, if you don't speak up for that opportunity, you won't get it. And I think the last thing is, growing up in a city like Cleveland, you are kind of labeled sometimes as a nobody, in this city, Midwest. And you want to be successful. None of my parents own a business. They both work. My dad went to college, but it was like I wanted to do something that could be trailblazing, create a legacy. If that makes sense. And I wanted that since I was growing up. Just like I'm sure you want the same thing. The only difference was when I was 18, I said, hey, I'm gonna make this happen with this business. And I even thought I was going to be a millionaire by the time I was 18. That didn't happen. So I said 19. So I said 20. 28, and it still hasn't happened yet. But you got to keep
working towards something. You gotta start somewhere.
So that's my mindset, bro.
I like that, man. I really do. Definitely, I'm big on. I'm trying to achieve all the things in life that I can, man. My biggest fear in life is not achieving my full potential.
Exactly.
So I'm definitely striving to do whatever God brings me. I really just let God guide my life, whatever He has for me. Obviously, everybody has their own agenda. Everybody wants to do their own things. But I'm really just going with the flow, and just allowing my energy to go where it may and just achieve all the things that I can. But let's see. Did you go to college?
I did go to a school, Hiram College. Yep. So Hiram, Ohio. I'll be honest, that was one of the only schools that accepted me. Wasn't the best student in high school, Shaker Heights High School. I was very focused in entrepreneurship. So focused, there was like a little center called the Launch House. It's still in Shaker on Lee Road. And if you're an entrepreneur, you can go there and rent space. But at this time, you could go there back in the day and actually get some advising. I would leave school, during study break time, and just go there and just work on my business. Sometimes leave school early. So you could see where my head was. I did graduate luckily, and then Hiram said, we'll pick you. We have an entrepreneurship department. We like what you're doing, and we'll let you come here. And that's where I think my whole story really started. I didn't even finish school, so I'm going to be 100% with everyone.
You didn't finish college?
I did not, but I would recommend everybody goes, because I wouldn't be here today if I didn't go, because it gave me opportunity. It allowed me to do business competitions, with Key Bank and other organizations. I'm the only black male pitching this applesauce, and then I'm winning $2,500, $5,000, and I'm putting that back into business. And then we got Heinen's. Thank you, bro. Got Heinen's my sophomore year at college, and I was like, hey, things are getting busy, and this is why I came to college in the first place. So I don't recommend dropping out, just telling everybody, sometimes it works that way, So.
I definitely feel that, though, because I feel like we live in a world today where college, it doesn't serve the same necessity as it did back in the day. Like back when my parents were growing up, my parents, they're both mid-40s. So if you could think, they were born in the late 70s, like late 70s. So around that time, I feel like college, it was more of a big thing. Like you had to, that was the thing that your parents forced you to do coming out of high school. You got to apply to colleges, think about where you're going to school. Like it's really like a status thing to people, I feel like where are you going to college? Where did you graduate from? What is your degree in? But I feel like we're getting to a point where college is becoming, I'm not going to say obsolete, because it's definitely a good investment if you know what you're going for,
Exactly.
like if you know what you're doing. But I feel like college is kind of becoming obsolete, for lack of a better word, because there are so many, it's so many things you could do now, man, to make a living and make a better living than if you had a college degree.
Exactly.
Especially with this phone and the internet, man, it's the possibilities are endless.
YouTubers are now, it's the most sought after career, YouTubers now, you know what I mean? They're making millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
So, but college, I think, again, it's that social component. You have to grow up, you know what I mean? I learned more about myself than anything, you know what I mean?
I feel
So,
that.
you know how that is. Then my girlfriend, now she's, soon to be my wife, been together for 10 years, you know what I mean? So those type of friendships, you get it, so.
Absolutely, but to touch on the YouTube thing that you were just speaking about, I just interviewed a 7-year-old before you,
Wow.
and she was telling me how she's about to start her own YouTube channel. So that just goes to show how
Anybody.
the generations, they're getting greater younger, if that makes sense. They're starting to do amazing things at such young ages, and I feel like that's just where the times are now. Like you can have your own company before you even turn 15 years old at this point.
It's easy to do if you.
I think I was interviewing her. She has her own hair detangling product, and she has her face on it. She got her own label.
That's great.
So I'm like, dang, you 7 years old with your own product, your own label on it. She said she was shipping products out to Atlanta
That's
already.
Amazing. That's amazing.
So I'm like, 7 years old, you already doing stuff that people in their 30s and 40s don't do, building their own business. So I'm like, yeah. The world is definitely in young people's hands right now.
Definitely, and I think it's important that young people, they get that experience, but they also do it themselves. And so my mom was, I'd say, my biggest supporter, my biggest critic. And that's why I am who I am, I'll be honest, where she challenged me, she criticized everything I did, which is, I love her, to this day, but it's just like, that made me who I am, where I never needed her to make applesauce with me. She's never called a store for me. But she has showed up and brought flowers or did things to help make the table look better, because she's my mom, But I do everything. And I think that's made me a better entrepreneur. And I think kids need to learn that too,
Absolutely. So I want to focus this interview, because I want to kind of focus this just on preaching to the young people. Not necessarily the importance of starting a business, but just have something going for yourself. Because I feel like a lot of people can easily get caught up, and me, I'm definitely included in this, get caught up in working somebody else's dream.
That's very true.
And don't get me wrong, we definitely need people like that, because everybody can't be an entrepreneur. It's not for everybody.
We call that an entrepreneur,
Entrepreneur.
So the entrepreneur, and then you have somebody, you need an entrepreneur, and some people are entrepreneurs. They're the number two or whatever, So you go, sorry.
Now, you definitely do need the people that work in the business every day that aren't necessarily the primary stakeholders or the owners of the company, because that's really the people that make the company work every day. That's the people that keep it afloat. Like, I'm speaking from experience because I know I work at McDonald's during the day. So I know that if I don't get up and come work my shift, then the owner of my McDonald's, he's probably not going to make the same amount of money that he would.
Exactly.
Or just, I be thinking of things like that, like how my impact or how my decisions impact like other things that go around.
In that business.
Go on around me, yeah.
That's very important because, that's how business works. There's multiple levels to it. It's vertical,
Absolutely.
definitely. And I'd say my first job was at Panera. And I remember at one point they had me sweeping the parking lot. So it gives you good experience, working those jobs. So respect that.
Nah, I definitely feel that. I guess we can talk about that now. So what are some, I know you just mentioned your first job was Panera. What are, or not what, but how do you think that the jobs and like the little odd things in and out growing up that you did, like working and like things that you may not have understood the trajectory like at the time, but can you think of like the things that you did as a younger person that really groomed you to be where you are today?
Definitely, great
Like
question.
for example, Panera, working at Panera, like I said, I work at McDonald's, but like the things that in the moment you're like, I don't want to do this, I don't feel like doing this. But yeah, like years later, you see the effect that it has on your life.
So I'd say definitely that Panera, that was a huge experience. And then as I got into business, I started doing like speakings. And it'd be like, hey, Ethan, will you come out and speak to a group of 30 kids? These are usually African-American children, young, and they want a speaker. And I'd say yes to almost all of them.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was 20 in a year, just going out, hey, my name's Ethan, giving out applesauce, never got paid. And then I remember one day someone was like, hey, you did all these speakings, I saw you, I want to give you $2,500 to be our graduation speaker. Then people were like, hey, will you be our virtual speaker for this ceremony we're doing for a scholarship? And so just doing all those free things gave me a better public speaking skills, and then it created, people wanting to actually pay me to do speakings, you know what I mean? So all of those things added up. I also say, again, closed mouths don't get fed, and I think it's important to control your own destiny if you can. So when I went in grocery stores, I remember I'm in college, I got this product, I found the phone number on Google for Heinen's, Giant Eagle, Whole Foods, and I called them at least 3 times, 4 times a week. They'd be like, well, John is the guy. All right, can I talk to John? He's not here till Tuesday. I called John on Tuesday. And he's like, yeah, call me back Wednesday. So I'm just calling till I got John. John's like, drop off the product. I drop it off to John. I'm calling John 3-4 times a week again until he tells me he likes it. And I remember one day I did that with Heinen's. I'm going to my job on campus where I'm making sandwiches, like a Subway type thing in the cafeteria. I'm young, and then all of a sudden my phone rings. I look at it, and it's Heinen's. And he says, hey, Ethan, I got around to trying your applesauce. Can you give me 2,500 units together in a month? And I was like, wow, I'm making about $9 an hour, if that. This is ridiculous. Now I have this, huge retailer, 23 locations, Ohio and Illinois. And so that was I'll never forget that. So just those little moments. And the last thing I'll say is like Chobani yogurt. We all know Chobani maybe here, billion-dollar company. They have an incubator program. They do it every year. They choose about 5 companies across the country to work with. They give you $30,000 and they give you programming. I applied maybe 3 times in my life, never got chosen. My girlfriend sends it to me maybe in 2020. She's like, hey, I just saw an ad on Facebook. I click it, I apply, I go on LinkedIn, I find who the director is. I send her a message, nothing happens. 3 months go by, she calls me. Hey Ethan, you're from Cleveland, we've never had anybody from Cleveland. Do you want to be part of Chobani? And they gave us 30 grand, and that opened us up. That was 2020. So closed mouths don't get fed. Nobody's calling my phone. You know what I mean? I call their phone. So all those experiences. So yeah.
I definitely love that, man. It's so many ways I can go, like as far as a question, but I definitely love that. It sounds like you've been really intentional about the way you've been playing and stuff, and I feel like that's a big thing if you really want to achieve, I'm gonna say, a fulfilled life, because that's something I'm really mindful of, especially going into this new year. That was something I really wanted to get better at, because I feel like like when you're going through a year, you can easily let the time slip away, and like it'll be August and you'll think like, damn, where did the last 8 months go?
Yeah, very easily.
So definitely being more intentional was definitely one of my goals this year. Just thinking like, what can I do each day? Just be more present in the moment and just get 1% better.
Right.
But I feel like what you just spoke about really captures that intentionality and just being super intentional. Like I said, it sounds like you didn't always know where you'd end up, but it sounds like you knew you would end up somewhere, if that makes sense.
Exactly, and I feel that way today. I don't feel like I have all the answers. You know, we only made 100,000 last year. You know, but we raised about 200,000 last year, and we're raising about 300 this year towards the new rebrand I showed you. So a lot of good things going, but again, we're still in that small space. But I know we're gonna lead somewhere. You know, we just have to stay in it. You know,
absolutely. So. Consistency is everything, man. Persistence is everything. That's crazy, man. You got an applesauce company. That's different. That's unheard of. I'm gonna definitely try some of this applesauce once we stop recording. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna probably eat this whole thing to tell
Thank you. And I'll tell you a little bit about the process. What's in it? You know, we work with farms like Patterson's here in Chesterland. You know, Ballman Orchards. We take these golden delicious apples. We put them through automatic apple peelers. Then wash all the fruit through a pressure washer, and then it's all cooked in a giant kettle. And then it's all blended down, and there you got the applesauce. It goes in machines that put it in the packaging, and it's labeled. And then all the product lasts 2 years unopened because it goes through a heat process called canning. So that's a little bit of how we've done it over the years. That costs us about $3 to make. You can buy it for about $4.99 at a store. And our biggest customer this past year was the Columbus Zoo. Which was really random. They didn't, you know, they actually reached out to me. They said, hey, we're looking for cups of applesauce. So you never know when you might have hit a gold mine where everybody's, you know, post-COVID, they're looking for some cups of applesauce that they don't actually have to open, you know, because of, you know, the disease, the virus. They just wanted something they could rip. And that was huge for us. So huge, they probably put in maybe $30,000 worth, but they said we could have done 4 or 5 times that amount if you would have had more product available. And that showed me we need to move out of making this. Yeah. We need to get into a company, to a
outsource it.
Exactly. So that's what we've been doing this past year. So just giving you my experiences, man.
Nah, that's crazy, man. It's definitely, I commend you on that, because I'm sure when you started this, you probably would never imagine that you'd get to be, how do I put it, a supplier of applesauce for the Columbus Zoo, or even, like you said, all these major grocery stores.
Definitely, and I would say some more. You can cut me off, but I made a lot of this applesauce. This jar in front of you, I may have actually made it. So there's times where
I mean, it's going to taste the best.
Exactly. Where I'm actually, and I have guys that I'm sure they can do testimonies. I've seen Ethan in there 8 hours just peeling with his headphones in. I do that, you know. Then I'll go home and do emails, and then come back, and I'll bring in a guy or two if they can come. And we have a staff of 4 that come and go. So sometimes you got to do it, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If you can figure out a way to do it. So I'm just putting that out there. I'm not going home to this mansion. I'm not sitting around ordering people around all day. I'm actually making this stuff sometimes. I'm labeling it sometimes by myself in a room that's dark, just doing it. Because that's what you got to do as an entrepreneur. So
yes, sir.
Definitely.
Do you invest?
I do invest a little bit, but not too much.
Not too much.
Yeah, but I definitely.
I mean, this is an investment. Investing in your business. That's an investment right there.
Definitely. Just more of the stock market. You know, cryptocurrency's been a huge thing. Been doing a little research. So.
And what about real estate? You investing in real estate?
I'm not currently, but I would definitely something I'm very much interested in. So maybe you can be my guy.
I'm about to say, whenever you're looking to buy a house, man, hit me up.
Very serious. Sure. Once we get that, get that income, I'll be there for sure with you. So very serious.
So let's see. Let me see. Let me think of another question for you. A good question for the viewers. So I really love the conversation we having, man. I can tell you're my type of person. Like I'm really an old soul. I'm only 19, but you can obviously see I hang around a lot of older people. I'm always around grown people. So I'm always looking to soak up as much knowledge as possible, as much wisdom. I'm definitely a sponge. I'm always looking to steal whatever knowledge I can from whoever I meet.
Right.
So
it's important.
What applesauce, man, that's crazy. I'm trying to think of some better questions, some good questions. What do you think? Damn, I'm messing up right now. Forgive me.
No, I'm thinking of some.
This is a genuine conversation. I'm not gonna act like I got everything figured out, but
good.
Let me see.
I think of anything that comes to mind. I did, maybe the community program, the importance of working with the youth. I could.
Oh yeah, you did mention that. You told me
Yeah.
to ask you about the community program you had.
Definitely. So for those listening, it's important to work with the youth. That's always carried us, like I mentioned, the public speakings. But we also worked with organizations like Youth Opportunities Unlimited. You guys have heard of it maybe in Cleveland, but if you're a Cleveland student, you can actually work with them and get paid, working with employers. And so that's something that we've been able to do. They've given us like 20 students, 30 students over the years since like 2015, 2016, and we've been able to work with them. They get paid like $400 for about 2-3 months, and then they work with us, learn in that process. So, and a lot of these kids are living in the projects, and there's times where they would be like, hey, I don't want to be in my home right now. I don't want to be around my neighborhood. Can I just come in the kitchen with you guys? Yeah. And we used to make applesauce with these kids like Saturday, Sunday for a year. And that was a great experience, but after a while, you just couldn't keep up with it, you know what I mean? So that's a big part of our model, and I think that's important. And I'll say that the only reason why we raised $200,000 last year from this investor, he's a white guy from Florida. He sold his company for millions. He said, Ethan, I like the fact that you're giving back. That's why I want to invest in you. And so I'm just letting you know, you never know why somebody white might want to mess with you. He said, I could give two craps about the applesauce, to be honest. I like you and what you represent.
Absolutely. I feel like that's just more of a testament to the fact that you have to be your own unique person. You have to just find whatever value you can offer to whatever you're doing. Just find a way to do that and just work that lane, work your niche, work your own skills. Obviously, Ethan, he found a niche that he found a way to exploit, because as he said, applesauce is not even his favorite food. You probably don't even like applesauce, do you?
I do. I love my applesauce. So that just
That's
remember,
the right
anybody
answer.
ever thought that's the right answer. But no,
right
and
answer.
I do love it. But the thing is, I don't eat it. I can't even eat much of it because I've made it so much of it. Even my girlfriend, I'm like, hey, try this one, try this one, try this one. Let me know how so you get it. But one other thing I want to speak on is fundraising. For those out there, how do you get started? So for me, a lot of it may have been pre-orders. Crowdfunding is a good example. GoFundMe, Indiegogo, Kickstarter. I use GoFundMe and Indiegogo at that time. And I said, hey, we're trying to raise $3,000 just to make some product. And we wind up raising maybe almost $4,000 because people were like, hey, I want to buy the jars ahead of time. And so it was like, you buy 20 jars, you give us an extra maybe $20 on top of that. So you're going to get those jars once the product is made, and then we're also going to put that towards the business. So it was a great way to get pre-orders and fund what we wanted to do. So it was only $3,000, which is no money at all, but that again got us started, and then that led to other things. So I'd say get creative for those out there, and then again, people are investing in entrepreneur, not just the brand itself. And
absolutely, it's an image that people look at. It's not just about what you have to offer. You got to think about, it's really like your code of ethics, I guess, as your business, or just like your morals as a business. You got to think about how you're impacting things further than just the product you're selling. So I love that, man.
And you can actually tell me if we're over, if we need to go. Okay, I have one more story. I'm sorry about that.
No, I'm definitely all the content we can get, man. I'm taking. I'm not turning down any content.
So yeah, this story. The first time we raised any money was actually, I believe, 2015, and we had reached out to a Cavs player. His name is Matthew Dellavedova, former point guard. And I emailed him on his website, and I said, hey, Matthew, my name's Ethan. I make applesauce. Love to work with you. His manager emailed me back that day, hey, Deli loves Shark Tank. He loves entrepreneurship. We'd love to work with you. Just join the Cavs. And so at this point, I sent them bottles. We got a contract together, and for about $2,000, he was going to come out to Shaker Heights. I didn't have $2,000. So I actually went to the launch house, which I mentioned, the launch house where I used to go to after school. Just remember that, I used to go there after school just to sit there and learn and soak it up. I said, hey, I got a Cavs player. He wants to come out to our city. I don't have a place to bring him. They gave me $10,000 as an investment in my business for about 1% ownership at that time. And then I used that money to bring him out, and I had some money. And then the Cavs player came out, about 200 people or so came out, signed autographs for him, and we created a relationship. I gave him maybe about 20 jars. He took them to the players, even gave some to LeBron. Never spoke to LeBron, but just, you never know how reaching out to somebody And I never thought he would ever do that for me. And then 3 years later, he actually gave me tickets to the Cavs game to sit, on the floor with, my family. So he left the Cavs obviously this past year, but again, reaching out to people, that's always carried me.
So I got 2 ways to go from that now. So I'm gonna
How
start
would you like
with,
to see 5 real life
I'm gonna start
examples
with,
of people making
can you
over
explain
$1
or
million
just
a year
speak on the importance of taking action? Because obviously from this conversation, I can tell that you're a big action taker. You told me that like when you were pitching your applesauce idea, you were calling, just making calls until somebody either told you no or told you, yeah, we're gonna run with your product. So can you just explain to the people or just speak on the importance of taking action, even if you don't know exactly what you're doing, but just making progress towards something?
I think you just said it. Even if you don't know what you're doing, just making action. I think the first store I approached was Miles Farmers Market. Maybe some of you guys have heard of it. Brought that jar in that you see in front of you, and they actually said, hey, you don't have a nutrition facts, you don't have a barcode. Come back in a year or 2 with that and we'll pick it up. And so I remember I actually came back that next year, hey, is this good? And he's like, come back in another time and I'll look at it. And eventually he actually called me and say, hey, can we bring this in? I saw you in the Plain Dealer. So it was like, no sometimes can lead to yes.
Absolutely.
And, I don't want to put this too much public, but we'll put it out there. I pitched to Jay-Z's people this past year, Marcy Ventures. Marcy Ventures, you can look them up. They invested in multiple food companies, Savage Fenty, Rihanna's line, very big. And they told me no, and that was a big heartbreak for me because I sent them product. I'm talking to, Jay-Z's people who, I didn't talk to Jay-Z, but his people, and they're like, we want to invest in a food company, black owned, we're already doing it. And they said, we want to see you a little further. And that to me was like, I thought I've already done all this work already. But I took that no and held my head high, and now, let me to the next opportunity. So,
Absolutely.
just telling you, bro. You get a lot of no's. I could go on for hours about all the no's, all the rejections. Shark Tank, gone through the process at least 4 times in my life. Never been on the show. So, if there's an opportunity to apply, I do it. So I'll let you know that. So.
Absolutely, man. I love that because that's something I wouldn't say I'm struggling with right now, but just something I'm learning. Because being so young but so ambitious, I'm very impatient, and I'm trying to work on my patience. So
Me too.
I've been working on just being more present in the moment, just doing the task that's in front of me, not worrying about where I'm gonna be in the next 5-10 years, but just applying myself to what's in front of me. Like, I'm gonna do this to the best of my ability, and whatever comes from it comes from it. So
Exactly.
that's just something I'm trying to teach myself. Just keep making progress towards something, because like right now I can speak from my experience. Like, being a real estate agent, I only been licensed for like 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
But like being so young in it, like I really don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just been going through the motions. Just obviously I'm learning stuff, but like I'm like, where is this getting me? Like, what am I doing with this? So I really just been doing this stuff blindly, but I know that's gonna lead to something.
Doing it the smart way. And I just talked to a guy mentoring today about this. He wants to start a food company. He's like, hey, I went to Heinen's today, Ethan. I went to Whole Foods. They gave me all this. I'm like, hey, bro, how about we work on the product and the pricing first?
Yeah.
But I respect you because you already got your whole sales strategy together. You know what I mean? So he's blind with it, but he's a hustler because he's already jumping in, and that's what I had to do sometimes. So
Absolutely.
I respect you, bro. Appreciate it.
No, you definitely just gotta jump in and do it sometimes, because I'm definitely a big overthinker.
Me
I
too,
can sit
sometimes.
down and analyze all the things that's gonna go wrong before I make a decision, and that can, sometimes I let it discourage me from doing things, and I'm trying to stop myself from doing that.
Right. And,
So-
I'd even say to those listening at home, with entrepreneurship, you can create a business plan. I probably made my business plan and edited it maybe 10, 12 times and realized, why am I doing this? This is for raising money.
I'm 23.
Okay.
If you could tell a young person coming up now, trying to accomplish something, trying to be something in life, one thing about anything, what would be your biggest piece of advice to a young person trying to accomplish something?
I'd say a few quotes. Again, one which I've said already, closed mouths do not get fed. So if you don't speak up, then you may never get that opportunity. Number 2, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. So nobody's better than you. I've had guys that I worked with that are doing a lot more money than me and, older than me, and that discouraged me for years. What am I doing wrong? But I realize everybody's journey is different. And then the last thing is, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky. So, closed mouths don't get fed. So thank you guys for that.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast. This was produced by Equity Movement 247 to reach this incredible group of young individuals. Guess what, Gen Z? You're up next. So follow us at Gen Z Future Fortunes at Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We want to hear from you.